Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren, and today we continue with the Belmont Saga, Part 1, Chapter 12, The Heade, On-The-Hearth. So last week, we discovered that the central person connecting our three heroes, or four if you count Lieutenant Gwendolyn, and we must, the central person linking all of them is Lady Vendra of Cone, the lady in gray. She has affected all of their lives. The Baz Vendetta circle curse that Tara insists is real started with her because of Lady Jubilee stealing Stenstrom the Older from her at a ball. And she never forgot that, and she never forgave. And she tried to kill herself after Stenstrom's father sent her a letter apologizing for what happened and that it wasn't her fault. It was just what had to be, or what was, or what would be. And she tried to kill herself and was declared insane by the Hospitallers. And that's a big deal in the league. In this league where everyone's young and healthy throughout their lives, to be mentally ill is a big deal, and it's not looked on very well. So in order for her infirmity to keep from staining the House of Cone, they sent her off to a convent. That sounds harsh, and it probably is, but that's just the way it is in the league. One of the worst things that can happen is if you're mentally ill, just because it's so unheard of and so rare. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, you have to sweep that under the rug. So Lady Vendra, insane, gets sent off to a convent, and when she came back 2 years later, apparently completely healed, sanity taken care of, she was a very different person. Although she was adept at hiding it, her brother, the Admiral Cone, Admiral Derleth, he could tell that something was different, that, she might be smiling and she might be saying all the right things, but inside she was just a seething dynamo of rage. She seemed to have a lot of skills and abilities that she didn't have before going to the convent. So whatever happened to her at the convent is the key to everything, and we will learn more about that later in the book. So after Aram spills his guts and tells him, it's the lady in gray, and Tara's like, well, great, now we know who we have to kill. And Stenstrom isn't still not square with that. Cold-blooded murder just doesn't seem like the right way, the right path to take. There must be a better way. We just have to figure out what that better way is. The sisters show back up with the lantern, and the sisters say, hey, your path is not the path of other men. You are going into Perilhood. You're taking the road to Mordor, so to speak. And if you recall Lilly's letter to Lord Stenstrom, she said, beware the leeward side of Druries Blet. So they were steering well clear away from the leeward side. They were staying on the windward side. Even though it's in space, there is still leeward and windward with the solar winds. But no, this is just saying, no, you're not going to just shuffle off down the windward side and make it to Baz. No. You're going to the leeward side of Druries Blet, because that's where you need to be, and that's where you're going. And they, poof, send them right back to the place Lilly said you ought not to be, where there are horrible stories of people disappearing, of the devil, and that sort of thing, in this overlooked little patch of space. And that's where we're gonna resume the story, right here and now. Part 1, Chapter 12, The Heade on the Hearth. So let's see just how bad things can get for our intrepid trio. When the light subsided, the lantern had gone. They rubbed their eyes. "Hey!" Tara cried. I've got a little power on the panel here. Must have bled some energy from the lantern. Probably won't last. She manipulated screens. Through the window in Stenstrom's office, he could see more familiar stars laid out around them, along with the shimmering yellow band of Druries Blet. Well, looks like we're back where we started from, he said. The sisters are always full of surprises, aren't they? Tara stared at the panel. Belle? Aram, she said. Remember what crazy Lilly said in her notes about making sure to avoid the leeward side of Druries Blet? Well, guess where we are? Guess where the sisters put us? Stenstrom stared at the stars and at Druries Blet in particular, in horror. Before their encounter with the sisters, the belt had been roughly to the left of the ship, following the safe path Lilly had laid out for them. Now it was far to their right. The sisters had dropped them in the very place Lilly said they needed to avoid. Your road leads to Perilhood, they said. Aram, hard a starboard. Tara, get us out of here. Best possible speed. Aram tugged on the wheel and the ship pitched about until Druries Blet was dead ahead. Aram, wait! She cried. I need to plot a vector and set our course. Otherwise, we'll head off in the wrong bloody direction. We'll never get to Baz. Hurry, Tara. She slammed the panel, moving screens around. Hang on. Give me a minute. She stood up. I need my sextant. A light went off on the panel. She stared at it, wide-eyed. What's that? Stenstrom asked. What's blinking? Contact, she replied, somewhat breathless. What is it? Stenstrom asked. Unknown, but it's coming in and fast. Could it be Captain Gwendolyn? I don't know. We're reading motion only, but it's on us. It's coming in due port. 5 a.m. and climbing. We should be able to visually see it through your office windows. Keep an eye on it. Hold fast, Aram, and keep it at station should it try to get too friendly. Aye, Belle. Keep our thruster ticks to a minimum. Perhaps they won't notice us. Stenstrom and Tara exited the bridge and entered his office. Which way? He asked. That way, Tara said, pointing down past the wing to the right. Through the window, Stenstrom saw a distant patch of black moving in, blotting out the stars. Lilly's warning rang through his head. Wear Druries Blet. The patch of black came in, getting bigger and bigger. Distant spotlights came on and homed in on the ship. They got us made. They're scanning us, Tara said. As they watched, the unknown vessel came into clear view. Through the windows, they could see the latticed, partial hulk of an old Weber ship lit up in dash-like running lights, its superstructure loaded out with capsules and decrepit add-ons. A Weber? Tara snorted. I got my knickers all up in a bind over a stupid Weber ship. What's an old beater like that still doing flying? It approached swiftly and then slowed. A node of strong spotlights eyeballing the seeker. It moved in a deliberate fashion across the length of the seeker's neck, the spotlights making round, lit-up circles on the hull, caressing it in light. The vessel looked hodgepodge and pieced together in comparison to the sleek seeker, rather like a hermit crab under a tin-can shell. Stenstrom knew all about the old Weber-class ships from his father. The old Amazing was a Weber. It was the precursor of the Strelite class of main fleet vessels. They were crude in comparison, about half the size of a Strelite, composed of a number of crew and maintenance capsules, connected by an unwieldy set of gantries and networks of naked metal scaffolding. A Weber, seen from a distance, looked rather like a capital H. Once they made up the bulk of the serviceable fleet and were associated in a romantic light with the golden age of the League-Zaffin conflict, as the Zaffins matched up much better against the Webers than they did against the Strelites and Triumphs that came later on. This Weber was missing much of its starboard side, its classic H silhouette, looking more like a toppled-over T. Its starboard engine was gone, and the port engine was bolstered with a series of smaller capsule-shaped rockets that were strapped on and welded with metal bands. It seemed to have a number of odd accessories attached to various quarters along its length. The whole ship seemed to have a vacant, rather decrepit feel to it. "Who is that out there?" Aram asked. "Dunno," Tara said. "Pirates? Raiders? It's gotta be pirates rocking an old beater like this one." "In the middle of league space?" The Weber spun around and focused its attention on the frontal section of the ship, the roving spotlights greedily panning about, casting in silhouette of the Seeker in a passing whitish glow. It reached the forward main hatch just aft of the Seeker's frontal section. A flexible, tubular docking assembly snaked out of the ventral of the Weber and made its way to the Seeker's main docking ring. It moved in a sinuous fashion. It reminded Stenstrom of the sex organ of a male bird. "What is that?" Tara asked. "Doesn't look like a standard piece of equipment a Weber would mount." "She's trying to dock, Aram. Move us away." He turned the wheel. As Aram rolled the Seeker away, several flexible arms, like vast tentacles of a cuttlefish, shot out of the Weber's forward sections and wrapped around the neck section of the ship, holding it fast. The whole mass of the Weber seemed flexible and articulated in an advanced way. It was balling up and unballing like the movements of a pill bug in a manner well beyond that of any ordinary Weber, which was a notoriously rigid class of ship. Clinging fast, the odd ship latched on with a clank that they could hear all the way in the bridge as its advanced docking assembly coupled with the Seeker's. Tara stared at it through the windows. "Look! The nameplate reads, Heade on the Hearth." "That particular ship was listed as lost at sea decades ago," she said. "We better get down there," Stenstrom said, heading to the lift. "Tara, can you route a little power from the bridge to that section of the ship? I want lights." Tara stopped at the missives panel and pressed a few buttons. "Okay," she said as the lighting in the bridge dimmed. "Come on, Aram, let's go. We'll need all hands down below." "Me?" he squeaked. "Yes, you. Let's go." Tara appeared uncharacteristically nervous. "This part of space is not liked by us, Belle. In the old days, a lot of ships turned up missing in these parts. Lots of lost souls, never seen again." "Those are just old wives' tales," Aram said from behind the helm. "Yeah? Old wives' tales? But look, there's the Heade on the Hearth out there, an honest-to-God ghost ship." "Tara, any thoughts on who's on that vessel?" Stenstrom asked. She looked at it. "4 guys." "4? That's all?" "That's one more than what we've got," Aram said, lowering himself into the lift shaft. "Well, not true. We've got Tara. She counts for at least 3 people," Stenstrom said. "Who are they?" "I don't know," she said, moving down. They climbed down to deck 4, which was dimly lit in unsteady light from the bridge, and made their way to the docking ring. They arrived and waited. Tara drew her SK and cocked it. They waited a few minutes more. The docking ring clanked, and they could hear droll male voices chattering on the other side of the hatch. "Wear Druries Blet," Lilly had warned. Stenstrom wondered what sort of monstrosity awaited. Through the slim windows, they could see hints of movement flickering by. Finally, the docking hatch swung open. 4 men came in. They were smallish and skinny, though in a side-by-side comparison, they were a bit bigger than the very small Aram. They wore a mishmash of faded and out-of-fashion clothing, rather in the old fleet style. Washed-out coats with dirty frills, seedy shirts that were clearly once white, but now an unidentifiable gray, filthy knee breeches with tarnished brass buttons, and worn black shoes. Their hair was straw-like and unkempt. They also smelled, not like body odor or dirt, but like innards, raw and stinking. They appeared to be ruthless scalawags in dire need of a shower and a nourishing meal. Nothing more. He breathed a sigh of relief. "Halt and identify yourself," Stenstrom said. in a commanding tone, trying to sound authoritative. Tara hefted her SK and made sure they could see its gigantic barrel pointing at them. Stenstrom found himself struggling a bit. He wasn't sure how to handle a situation like this, to be boarded in deep space. He recalled his father once mentioning that to board a vessel at sea without due sounding and invitation was the most provocative act one could commit, short of opening fire. His father said something about, should he ever be boarded, he would have to respond with deadly force. Should he ever be boarded? That implied that in his long sailing career, his father had never been boarded to that point. And now here he was, on his maiden flight, and he was boarded. And he had been warned as well. And of course Stenstrom had no security detail, no sisters, no marines, no ship hands to hoist weapons and back him up. Not to mention the fact that he had no able-bodied ship, no guns, no engines. He couldn't even tuck tail and run should it come to that. It was just he, Tar, and Aram, and there were 4 boarders, so he was down a man. The boarders were surprised, standing there big-eyed and open-mouthed. "Great tap-dancing gods," the first man said in a gruff accent. "Indeed," Stenstrom replied. You know, of course, that boarding a flag Stellar Fleet vessel is a capital offense. I am well within my rights to put the lot of you to the sword right here and now, gentlemen. The second man raised his knobby hands. Hold up there, Gov. This didn't look to us to be no flag fleet vessel. We didn't detect no flag flying. We thought she was a derelict, adrift, and towed out.
Yeah, performing a safety service we was, the third man said. She's out the shipping lanes. This here's the backwater, mate. The open country. The fourth man sidled out of the dark, the smallest of the bunch. He had a shifty look, and his goggle eyes panned about, seeing everything. He wore a modest merchant's hat on top of his nest of messy hair. Who, pray, are you? He asked. I am Paymaster Stenstrom, Lord of Belmont, South Tyrol, captain of the main fleet vessel Seeker. To my right here is Lord Aram's ship's master helm, and to my left is Private Tara De La Anderson of the 110th Stellar Marines, my first officer. The fourth man looked about and then carefully studied Stenstrom. He had a groping, invasive sort of stare. Aquí tenemos nosotros aquí. You have a fleet adjutant for a master helmsman, and a marine private as a first officer? A novel bit of selection there. And you, sir, that is not a standard uniform you're wearing, is it? What is your rank, Lord Belmont? Pray tell. You'll pardon us if we ask the questions for the time being, Tara said, jumping in, giving her SK a shake. The smallest man turned to her. C'est que un petit filet délicieuse. What? Tara replied. The man chuckled. Oh, your pardon. I have a love of irrelevant and obsolete languages of old. A hobby of mine. I merely said what a handsome young lady stands before us. He waved his arms in an inviting manner. Please, allow me to introduce myself. I am Chance Venable, and these are my brothers, Clem Venable, Innocent Venable, and Lemuel Venable. We are simple traders, scraping by as best we can. Yeah, Tara said. What do you trade in? None of your business, Lemuel snapped. Chance quieted him with a wave of his hand. Pardon my uncouth brother, Private. Out here in the wilds, we have seldom occasion to practice our good manners. We trade in sundries, barley, tobacco, spirits when we can, fine finished goods, and scrap metal when we happen upon it. You must pardon our attention. Surely an apparently abandoned ship such as this would be a rare find for the likes of us. We beg your leave. Stenstrom thought it over. He remembered Lilly's warning. However, these four didn't seem to be any great threat, and what they said made a bit of sense. They might have indeed thought the Seeker to be an abandoned hulk, and were hoping to cash in on their good fortune. He couldn't fault them for that. Well, I'm not one to hold a grudge. We shall overlook this matter. However, do not try my patience any further. You are free to go. Clem looked around.
Where's your security detail, Gov?
En route, sir, he responded. Now, I suggest you turn around and walk out the way you came. I'll not ask again. My first officer has an eager trigger finger and a full .50 caliber mag.
Yeah?
Clem said, puffing himself up a bit to match Stenstrom's size. Chance Drury laughed. Now, we have a unique situation here, Lord Belmont. Please attend from our perspective. You fly no flag. You have no apparent crew besides what stands before us, and no motive power. We scanned you quite thoroughly. There is also no bonded captain of this ship at present, as the MVF Seeker's current status at the fleet is determined to be half scuttled. Given all that, by fleet rule, this ship is deemed rudderless, and we have every right to board her as fair salvage. Additionally, are you, by chance, the same Paymaster Stenstrom of Belmont, South Tyrol, who currently has 22 minor and 4 major queries posted for his detainment at fleet headquarters? Clem stepped forward.
Sounds like we got us some hardened criminals on our hands, a real scalawag.
Innocent balled his fist and clapped it into his open palm. Then looks clear we'd be doing the League a favor by bringing y'all in for justice. Maybe there's a reward. Lemuel grinned in anticipation. And looks to me like all the crew you got backing you up is that little twerp standing over there and this little girl holding the big gun. Well, this little girl could kick your ass up and down this corridor, Tara replied. Ah, well then let's go, babe. Stenstrom drew his ince. Enough. Now, you lot need to turn around and march back to your Weber out there, and I'll forget this matter ever happened. If you choose to tarry a moment longer, I shall have to put you to the sword right here and now. The Venables looked at each other and slowly raised their hands. Ay, Guita! Dear me, looks like you have the drop on us. We wish no troubles here. Paymaster, come on, boys, let us retire. We are clearly overmatched by this galactic scalawag and his fearsome crew. They slowly began moving back toward the hatch. Stenstrom moved into an advantageous position where he was close enough to cover the Venables, yet far enough away that they couldn't rush him, and hoped to be successful. Tara skirted to his right, SK at the ready. Oh, Chance said, stopping and turning around. Paymaster, before I depart, I must know. That coat you wear, are you always in the habit of wearing a garment once used by the Hoban Royal Navy? A Grand Plantain's coat, if I'm not mistaken, and a mask to boot. You are quite the cad. It's my good luck charm. Chance tittered. I see, he said in a sinister voice. How quaint. Things unfolded quickly. In a sudden movement, Chance Venable reached out and snatched both ints from Stenstrom's grasp. It was a lightning strike, faster than any person should be able to move. It happened so fast, Stenstrom didn't really know what to think. How did he reach him in the first place? There was no possible way. It seemed for a split second that Chance Venable's arms expanded to 2 or 3 times their normal length, stretching out past the seedy frills and the rotten sleeves, reaching out and seizing his ince. Whatever had happened, the end result was undeniable. Chance Venable was now pointing his ince right at him. Stenstrom was flabbergasted. In a similar blink-of-an-eye move, Clem pulled Tara's SK out of her hand. In a matter of half a second, they were both disarmed and menaced with their own weapons. "Ha!" Chance said. "Min Scheisen ist scheines Albie de vier begonnen." Chance looked at the pistols. "Ich glaub min Schwein 5 Inch. If I'm not mistaken, very nice. Los Capricos weapons of the House of Belmont can kill anything, I hear tell, living or dead, real, unreal, man or machine. C'est juste." "I'm not sure what you're talking about," Stenstrom said. "They're just old pistols." Oh, please. I have my sources, truth be told. These are death-dealing ints, no doubt about it." Chance stood there beaming like a vulture, eyeballing a dying bit of prey. "Lemuel, innocent. Shackle this lot, please." The 2 grubby fellows produced 3 sets of manacles and roughly bound their arms behind their backs. Lemuel pulled Tara's monica from her belt, admired it for a moment, and tucked it into his own sash. They then pushed them into kneeling positions, the 4 Venables standing triumphant in the flickering light of the corridor. "A shocking turn of events indeed. Now then," Chance said, casually pointing the ends at Stenstrom. "Oh, and by the by, our family name is not Venable. I believe that was the name of the most recent family of unfortunate wayfarers we waylaid and killed in space. My name is Chance Drury, and we are the Drury Brothers." "The Drury Brothers are dead!" Aram cried from his knees. Chance Drury smiled with glee. "Are we? I don't feel dead." "The Venables, now they're dead, I agree. Now, what to do with the 3 of you?" Lemuel approached and gave the kneeling Tara a rough kick in the stomach. "Let me have this marine bitch. I'm going to show her a good time." He seized her by the sideburns and yanked her head up. Lemuel looked like he was aching to mess Tara up. A sadistic little man. Clem shook his head and gave a toothy grin. "Nah, let's feed 'em to the Cronins, nice as you please. That's what I says." Tara looked up the barrel of her own gun and scoffed. "Cronins? Cronins don't exist, Shinepole," she said, adding a dirty name from Baz. "Yeah? You think so? They'd like to chaw down on your little carcass, missy," Clem said. Lemuel took exception. "Little slut called you a Shinepole. I want her. I want to hear her scream. I love making jumped-up little whores like her scream." "Shut up and do as you're told," Clem barked. "She's for the Cronins, and that's the end of it. Unless you want me shoved up your works right in front of her so she can watch." Lemuel stewed and was visibly raging. Chance stood there with Stenstrom's ints and lorded over the situation, enjoying every moment. No. I hear tell there's a ship coming to rescue this lot. Not a warbird, but a scouting ship under full sail. The Demophalon John, only a short distance away, too. That is a Tekel-class ship, I'd say. Minimum complement 88 souls. We shall give the miserable scouting ship and her crew to the Cronins, and then, when they're done having their fun, we'll salvage the hulk. By the belt! This hull is made to order. Creation, Stenstrom thought. How is he knowing this stuff? 88 souls, Innocent said. That'll keep him happy for a spell, won't it? My very thought. Though I always detest taking fleet vessels, somebody's sure to come looking for them. Oh bien, Chance said. Still, We'll guide them in nice as you please and write out the aftermath, as we always do, nice and sweet. They'll not fall for such a thing, whatever it is you're planning, Stenstrom said. Oh, 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 Chance replied. He paused a moment and then, Seeker to Demophalon, John, he said, his voice taking on an echoing broadband-type sound. Chance Drury was speaking in Stenstrom's voice, a perfect match. After a moment, Stenstrom heard a response. Go ahead, Belle. Did you get your comm fixed? You sound a lot better than before, though we don't have a picture. What creation happened to you? We've been worried sick. It was Captain Gwendolyn's voice. We managed to cobble together something, Captain, and our ship is a mess. It looks like we've reached our wits' end with this old beater. Everything's shot. We'll send you our coordinates straight away. Can you come and get us with all speed? There was a delay, then... Well, I must say this is a bit of a surprise after the fuss you made, but sure. I'm glad you've come to your senses, Belle. We have your coordinates and are only about an hour and a half from your position. Sit tight, and we'll be right there. Stenstrom couldn't let this continue. He had to warn her. Gwen! He yelled from his kneeling position. Chance cocked the nth and pointed it at Aram's head, furrowing the muzzle into his hair. Yes, Belle? She replied. Stenstrom winced and lowered his head. Nothing, Captain. Sorry, Chance said in his voice. I'm just eager to get off this wreck is all. We shall stay on station and await your arrival. And Belle? Gwen said. Yes, Chance responded. When we get back to fleet, don't forget we're having lunch. Whatever you're having, ale, beer, spirits, it's on me, okay? And while we eat, I'll teach you a card game or two. There's a game I love called Canasta. You'll be a natural. I'll hold you to it, Captain, Chance replied, rolling his eyes. Call me Gwen, all right? How many times do I have to tell you? Of course, Gwen. Seeker out. Chance giggled. Situation personal, Canasta, how droll. She sounds like a Xenon. Too bad for her, she won't be making that lovely lunch date at the fleet, nor shall you. There, he said, his voice back to its normal wheezing sound. That wasn't hard, was it? Little does your friend know what's in store for her. I almost feel sorry for the lady. What the Cronins are going to do to her and her crew. Really quite a mess. Now, where was I? No me puedo recordar. Ah, yes! What to do with you three?
Kill him, Chance, and be done with it, Clem said, looking around. I'm thinking this warbird will do us up nice. We can use her to get those golden braggarts from the tank off our backs once and for all.
Nah, Lemuel said. She's stripped. Got no engines, just like this little girl here. He kicked Tara again and she woofed. Kick me again, and I'm gonna ghost you, Shinepole, she replied in a surprisingly icy voice. Not if I ghost you first, darling. He kicked her a third time and she wheezed in pain. Chance looked around. Lemuel, please. I realize you enjoy showing the ladies a capital time. However, there's really no need to knock her about. These three are a pack of cretins and rogues, just like we are, so let's show a modicum of respect to our peers, shall we? And yes, I agree with you, Clem, this ship, with a bit of touching up, shall do us nicely. I am invigorated. He stared down at Aram. You, sir, shall have the distinction of going first. He pointed the smooth bore iron barrel of the Ents at his skull and smiled, exposing his picket fence of yellowy teeth. Then let's get on with it. This is nothing personal, and at least we're not giving y'all to the Cronins like we are that Xenon woman, Be thankful for that. Auf Wiedersehen. Stenstrom looked up. You might want to forget about him and worry about me instead. Chance glanced at him. And why is that? Stenstrom rose up, free of his manacles, the lock picked clean. He waved his hands. In a flash, he had 6 marzible daggers nested between his fingers. He swept out with his left hand, and the daggers buried themselves in Chance's arm and hand. Chance, greatly surprised, dropped the nth. Excellent Scheiße!
You hunting dog,
Clem yelled. Stenstrom cast the 3 daggers from his right hand and hit Clem in the neck and face. He cringed and bent over. Chance recovered from his shock of getting stabbed and fired at Tara. Still shackled, she nimbly rolled out of the way, the flashing green globe just missing to her right, clipping her coattails. With a roar of delight, Lemuel dove into Tara. Now he's gonna dance, bitch! They rolled about on the floor. Clem, daggers protruding, kicked Aram over and pointed Tara's huge SK at his head. He pulled the trigger, and nothing happened. Puzzled, he examined the gun. Oh, jeep doggy, she's palm-spranded it! Stenstrom thanked creation for Aram's good luck and shook his hands again. 6 slime-green holy stones appeared between his fingers. He quickly threw them at Chance and Clem, where they exploded into stout tangle of spiderwebs. Chance completely disappeared in the mass. Clem, too, innocent, was partially captured, as was the struggling Aram. Stenstrom dragged Aram free from the webbing. You think you're smart, do ya? Came Chance's muffled voice from within the webbing. Innocent, get me out of this! He tore at the webbing. A few feet away, Lemuel and the shackled Tara tumbled about. She was using her legs fairly effectively while he toyed with her, apparently enjoying attacking a lady. He glanced up and saw Stenstrom quickly undoing Aram's shackles. He lined Aram up and threw Tara's Monica. The large knife spiraled through the air and got Aram in the brim of his hat, pinning it to the wall. Tara, taking advantage of the moment, reared back and headbutted him in the jaw. Ow! She cried, nearly knocking herself out. From within the mass of webbing, Stenstrom heard a familiar clicking sound. He dove for Aram and pushed him out of the way as a lit-up green mass came shooting out of the webs. In shot! He yelled. Growling, Tara peppered Lemuel with bites and kicks as Stenstrom created several more daggers and pumped them into his scrawny chest. He was seemingly unfazed. He easily pulled the hissing Tara off of him by her shackles and seized Stenstrom by his HRN coat. He then conked them together once or twice with a sickening series of crunches and threw Tara down the hallway right into Aram, sending him sprawling. Stenstrom recovered and, hauling back, socked Lemuel square in the jaw. It was like hitting a block of iron. Lemuel spat and gave him a ruinous headbutt in return. Everything spun. He picked Stenstrom up by the collar of his HRN and threw him stunned into the airlock, where he landed upside down with a thud. Now I'm gonna get you, missy! Stenstrom heard him yelled. Come here! The hatch shut and sealed with a hermetic hiss. Inside the airlock, Stenstrom recovered, stood and banged on the hatch, but he couldn't open it. It was locked from the other side. Through the narrow window, he could see hints of movement in the dark corridor beyond, covered up mostly by the sticky tangle of spiderwebs created by his holy stone throw. He thought he saw a flash of green light traveling down the hall, another inch shot. Somebody ran by. Was that Tara? No, it was Aram, Lemuel hot on his heels. Another green flash. Creation! His friends could be dying on the other side of the hatch. And with that, we conclude Part 1, Chapter 12, The Head on the Hearth. So, we meet the Drury brothers, who are the big bads of this particular book. A seemingly scabrous bunch of pirates. They appear to have abilities and skills beyond what their appearance might belie. Chance Drury has a fondness for speaking in other languages, and he did it a lot more than what I did in the narration. And because some of it is in like Russian, and I have actually no idea what's being said, and some of it's in German, and I don't know how to pronounce it. Some of it's in, I think, Hungarian and a couple of other languages. He loves just to speak other languages. He was also able to get a hold of Gwendolyn and mimic Stenstrom's voice. And he is leading Gwen and her ship, even at this moment, into a trap of some sort. They mention the Cronins. The Cronins. Who are the Cronins? We're not sure at this point, but from what they were talking, doesn't sound like the Cronins are a very pleasant bunch. And that's where Gwendolyn and her ship will be heading to. Also, we mentioned Tara's Monica, Lemuel, the apparent sadist and misogynist, who is hankering to beat Tara to smithereens, pulled her Monica from her waistband. We hadn't really heard of the Monica so far in the story. The Monica is the name of the Marines' combat knife that they all carry. It's kind of like a K-bar knife, a little bit bigger. It's just a big, all-purpose knife that's balanced for throwing, and all the Marines carry them. And Tara carries it also, but you hadn't really seen it in this book until now. Stenstrom escapes from his shackles, as we know he can, engages the Druries in combat. He gets headbutted and thrown into the airlock and sealed. So he's outside the airlock. His friends are inside in a heated pitch battle with the Druries. Clem and Chance Drury, and Chance is the leader. He's the little guy doing most of the talking in other languages, are partially caught in Stenstrom's lime green holy stone webs. So, there we go. We've met the peril, and the peril is fairly perilous. They might not look like much, but they're actually pretty rough, and they're completely unhindered by considerations of mercy and compassion, other basic human emotions that you expect people to have. These four do not have. They are completely and utterly ruthless, and we will see more of them as the book goes along. There are going to be a lot of them as the book goes on, and they're not pleasant, and that's for sure. Next week, we continue. We're kind of stop right in the middle of this battle, sort of in a cliffhanger between the chapters. Part 1, Chapter 13, The Sister's Fist. So we'll see how our duo, or actually our trio, gets out of this one. And until then, this is Ren Presents. I'm your host, Ren. Peace out.